Good afternoon. Today I will be discussing innovations in multimedia assessment, integrating creativity, engagement, and cognitive strategies in digital learning. This presentation explores how multimedia tools, creativity, and cognitive design come together to create more engaging and effective learning experiences in digital environments. I am Teresa Thomas, attending School of Education, Liberty University. Education has moved far beyond textbook and lecture hall. Multimedia tools, video games, simulations, and digital assessments now play a central role in how people learn. These tools make learning interactive, creative, and tailored to individual needs. This presentation explores how multimedia assessments are reshaping education by linking technology, creativity, and cognition. When I think about this, I think back to when I was earning my bachelor's degree, only between 5 and 8 years ago. My core courses were more textbook/notes heavy. Now, learners expect more interactivity, personalization, and creative engagement to keep them interested in the course. The main goal of this research was to understand how multimedia assessments can be designed to enhance engagement and learning outcomes. Why does that matter, you ask? Educators often rely on traditional assessments that measure recall, not creativity or application. This project explores how multimedia can close that gap. The key research questions were: how do multimedia assessments enhance learning and engagement? What role does creativity play in the digital learning environments? And how can instructional design and AI optimize these interactions? This framework shows the intersection between creativity, cognitive strategies, and multimedia assessment. When these three overlap, we see higher engagement, improved knowledge retention, and stronger self-regulated learning. The research argues that this integration, not any one factor alone, leads to a deeper and more meaningful learning experience. Multimedia assessment one example of multimedia assessment is a high school biology teacher. They create an interactive video lab simulation. The students watch short clips showing lab procedures. At key points, the video pauses and asks, what should the researcher do next? Students choose an answer, receive instant feedback, and see an animation of the outcome. This multimedia assessment goes beyond multiple choice tests. It measures decision making in context. Students learn through doing and not guessing. The immediate visual feedback helps them correct misconceptions on the spot. So, what is the takeaway from that? Multimedia assessment shows how assessment can teach as well as measure. When thinking about creativity, one scenario is that in a middle school English class, students use Canva or Adobe Express to design digital storybooks that reinterpret classic fairy tales from modern perspectives. They write the story, design visuals, record voiceovers, and share online. Peer review adds a social learning layer. So here, creativity isn't just decoration, it drives critical thinking. Students apply literary analysis, design choices, and narrative structure while using multimedia tools to express ideas. This boosts engagement and ownership of the learning. Therefore, creative multimedia projects nurture both expression and deep understanding. Cognitive strategies can run with the scenario In a college psychology course, the instructor uses interactive mind mapping software like MindMeister or Miro. Students map key theories, connect terms, and add media examples, short clips, graphs, quotes. Each week, they revise their maps after the formative quizzes reflecting on how concepts relate. This activity promotes metacognition. Students monitor their understanding as they build the map, linking concepts and updating visuals helps transfer information from the short to long-term memory. Therefore, it's a visual form of self-regulated learning that supports cognitive growth. And then when we look at this middle part where all three overlap, we can take the scenario of a business course. Students complete a virtual product launch simulation. They design marketing video, which is creativity. The platform accesses their decisions through interactive analytic dashboards, multimedia assessment, and they reflect on their process and adjust strategies, cognitive strategies. This type of project merges all three dimensions: creative production, multimedia evaluation, and reflective learning. It mirrors real world problem solving, which is the ultimate goal of integrated learning design. Multimedia assessment uses digital elements, such as videos, animations, and interactive quizzes to evaluate learning. For example, Tordet and others found that embedded quizzes within lessons improve retention and self-regulation. These assessments allow students to receive feedback instantly, helping them reflect and adjust their learning strategies in real time. These embedded assessments we see in ed puzzles that we assign, as well as common lit passages where you have your guided questions that you have to answer before you move on and you get that real-time feedback. Creativity plays a major role in engagement. Sandbox games like Minecraft enable learners to build, experiment, and solve problems collaboratively. Rahimi and others and Forlan showed that these environments promote critical thinking and collaboration. Assessments can measure not only what students know, but also how creatively they apply it. Minecraft for creative problem solving in a middle school science class. In 7th grade science, unit on ecosystems and sustainability, the students use Minecraft Education Edition to design and build a sustainable city. Each group is assigned an environmental role: energy, water, transportation, or waste management. Using Minecraft, they build virtual models showing how their systems interact sustainably. Students must justify their design choices in a short presentation, connecting them to real-world environmental principles. For example, in a middle school science class, students were challenged to build a sustainable city in Minecraft Education Edition. Each team was responsible for one aspect of the city: clean energy, transportation, or water conservation. They had to plan collaboratively, solve environmental problems creatively, and apply real science concepts to their digital designs. This kind of sandbox-based learning allows students to explore without fear of failure. They experiment, test ideas, and revise their work, which mirrors authentic scientific thinking. It's not just about playing a game, it's about designing, reflecting, and learning through creativity. Now, let's talk about the cognitive strategies, the mental tools learners use to process and retain information, and how they connect to self-regulated learning. Cognitive strategies include things like organizing information, summarizing key points, and using visual cues to remember concepts. Self-regulated learning, on the other hand, is about students taking control of their own learning, setting goals, monitoring their progress, and adjusting their strategies when something isn't working. Let me pause and make that really simple. Metacognition is basically thinking about your own thinking. It's when learners reflect on how well they understand something and make changes based on that reflection. For instance, when a student takes an interactive quiz in a digital lesson and sees their score change right away, they think, "What did I miss? How can I improve next time?" That's metacognition in action. They're not just getting feedback, they're learning how to learn. This process builds independence and confidence. The more immediate and meaningful the feedback, like what we see in multimedia assessments, the more effective students can self regulate. It turns assessment from a grade into a learning moment. And when you layer creativity on top, like letting students design their own multimedia projects, you strengthen this process even more. They become decision makers in their own learning. Our cognitive strategies go through the process of input, processing, reflection, and retention. And as we just discussed here, those flow seamlessly to help students be able to self regulate. Instructional design provides the backbone for multimedia learning. The OCDE framework ensures alignment between learning objectives, content, and assessment. Martin and others validated this structure, emphasizing when design is intentional, multimedia elements don't distract. They enhance learning by providing clarity and structure. AI is transforming digital learning. Tools like AI video assistants, Alshaka and others, and simulated learners, Azevedo and Widebush, adapt instruction to each student. They can adjust difficulty, provide hints, and manage cognitive load. Patak even found that AI chat tools can help students manage stress and focus on better academic tasks. Now, let's talk about the cognitive strategies and self-related learning, the mental process that can help students plan, monitor, and reflect their own learning. These strategies are at the heart of effective digital education. When learners use cognitive strategies, they're actively engaging with the material, organizing concepts, making connections, and reflecting on what they understand. Self-regulated learning builds on this by helping students take ownership of their progress. They become aware of what they know and what they don't, and what steps they need to take next. For example, when students complete an embedded quiz in a digital module and receive immediate feedback, they're prompted to think about what worked and what didn't. That moment of reflection is metacognition, thinking about their own thinking, and it's essential for deep learning. Let's look at a classroom example. In the seventh grade, science class where students are using the Minecraft education to design the sustainable city, as they build their virtual ecosystems, they had to apply scientific principles, test their ideas, and revise their designs. This hands-on creative problem solving encouraged self-regulation. Students learn to assess their progress, troubleshoot, and improve independently. Artificial intelligence tools are now taking this kind of self-regulated learning even further. Platforms like Duolingo Max use AI to give learners personalized feedback on pronunciation, grammar, adapting lesson difficulty, and in real time. The Coursera coach analyzes learner progress and recommend study paths or review materials based on areas of struggle. Even ChatGPT, when used thoughtfully, can serve as a study partner, generating practice questions, explaining complex topics in simple terms, or helping students plan study routines. These tools are powerful because they model self regulation. They show learners how to reflect, adjust, and keep improving, all key components of cognitive strategy development. When educators combine these AI driven supports with creative multimedia based learning tasks, students benefit both from structure and autonomy. These types of programs are also being used in school with programs like iReady, iExcel. The AI coaches on those are able to adapt based on student answers. So here's a quick snapshot of the major studies that were reviewed. Tordit and others showed that embedded quizzes improve self-regulation. Few and others found that virtual simulations boost engagement. Rahimi and others explored how sandbox games support creativity. Martin and others demonstrated the power of structured course design. Al-Shaka revealed how AI can personalize learning together. They show that technology, creativity, and cognition can all work synergistically. So the review highlights several key findings. Multimedia assessments improve engagement and self-regulation. Creativity-driven tasks deepen understanding. Structured design ensures alignment and consistency. AI enhances personalization when combined, these lead to effective and enjoyable learning experiences. Despite the benefits, challenges remain. Multimedia tools depend heavily on instructor skill. Poor design can lead to cognitive overload. Learners also vary in motivation and digital literacy. And the static systems can't always adapt to individual needs. These limitations show why continued research and professional development are essential in education. For educators, these findings translate into clear strategies. Use embedded assessments within lessons, incorporate creative, open-ended projects to assess problem solving, implement AI tools for adaptive feedback and personalized support, and follow structured instructional design frameworks to ensure quality and alignment. If I were implementing this into my own classroom, I'd use embedded quizzes in every multimedia lesson. Short, reflective checkpoints that prompt students to pause and assess their understanding before moving forward. I'd pair that with AI tools like ChatGPT or Duolingo Max, which personalize practice and feedback. For example, after a digital lesson, ChatGPT could generate a quick practice quiz or explain difficult terms in simpler language based on what the student struggled with. A concrete example comes from the middle school science class using Minecraft Education Edition. Students were asked to build a sustainable city, each team focusing on energy, water, or transportation. They had to research, plan, and justify their design choices. As they worked, they reflected on what was working and what wasn't, adjusting their builds. This process, design, reflection, revision, is self-regulated learning in action. Students become problem solvers, not just content consumers. That's the power of combining multimedia assessments, creative problem solving, and AI support. It helps learners think critically, regulate their own progress, and stay engaged through immediate and adaptive feedback. So, what direction should future reference go? Future research, future research go. Future research should bring together cognitive science, creative studies, and AI to design even more adaptive learning systems. We also need long term studies to understand retention and transfer of learning. Developing better creativity based assessments will help us measure innovation, not just information recall. Future research should also look at how these technologies affect equity, access, and creativity across diverse learners. To conclude, when multimedia, assessment, creativity, and cognitive strategies are intentionally integrated, digital learning becomes more engaging, personalized, and effective. This synergy encourages deeper learning and learner autonomy. In essence, good design, not just technology, determines success. One real life example of this is that at WC Friday, one of our initiatives is to implement interactive video assessments. For example, learners watch a scenario, make decisions, and receive immediate feedback. This captures not only what they know, but how they think. Thank you for listening, and I would be happy to take questions or discuss how these insights could apply to your own educational experience. I can be reached by email at tnthomas@liberty.edu. Thank you so much and have a great day.